Hi there, and welcome to Principal Shorts, the podcast for principals who have 7.5 minutes for lunch and no time to eat their lunch until after 2 p.m. I'm your host, Stan Baker, along with my colleagues Steve Young and Shelley Steele. Here's Paula, an AI voice, to tell you what we do.
Thanks for putting the words in my mouth again, Stan. I'm Paula. Restorative Resolutions specializes in equipping principals and staff at elementary and secondary schools with effective restorative practices. Can you help? Yes, you can by giving Shelley, Steve, and Stan your thoughts on this podcast's relevance, practicality, and your suggestions to add to the conversation. It's a feedback loop that can shape future podcast topics.
I'd love to chat with you about the possibility of being a guest on our podcast. Click the feedback loop link in the description below. And here's today's Principal's Problem of Practice. How do I stop staff turnover and prevent teachers from leaving or from leaving the profession? Let's listen to what Steve and Shelley have to say about this.
You talk about staff turnover. How much is 8%? At a school board that employs 1,000 teachers, that's 80 teachers. What are we doing for those 80 teachers before they burn out and leave? And now we're going to hire 80 more. So it's one thing to look at numbers. It's another thing, how do we interpret those numbers? And to me, it's the old starfish on the beach thing. If I can have a conversation with one teacher and really discover what their struggles are and put into place some kind of supports for them such that they feel confident to carry on and not quit, then that's well worth it. And I don't need data. I don't need to take all their answers and put it into numbers and then come up with a chart and say, I talked to this teacher and here's what the data shows me. I don't need to do all that. I just need to be able to deal with that one teacher. And if I can keep that one teacher from leaving the profession, then I'd say it's a successful day. That's the starfish on the beach thing. And so sometimes we look at the big numbers, we forget about on an individual basis. We need to be working with each person individually. And that's where our approach, that restorative approach, let's go in and ask some questions. Let's listen to what they're saying and let's work with them to come up with solutions, not to tell them what needs to happen.
Right. Numbers are a far more comfortable place to look at and make decisions or judge than to sometimes really hear what's going on. And if it's not something you do all the time, then how do I even start to have that conversation? And that's where restorative practice gives you that language, that framework, that script, whatever you want to call it, to facilitate a conversation. And then you'll be quite surprised at what comes out when you pose a few well-worded questions.
So you heard both Steve and Shelley say it. It's not about the big numbers and the big data in this situation. It's looking at the individuals. And so the question that I have for you is, who's your starfish on staff? Who's the one person that you have some concerns about that you as principal could make a difference for? Who's that teacher that seems to be struggling? Identify that one person and focus on that one person. That's the starfish. Secondly, when you're approaching them, what do you say? Well, you could say something like, I've been noticing that you've been struggling, or it even could be more straightforward. I'm just checking in on what's happening with you. Asking that kind of a question, having a very curious approach, can get you into the conversation. And it may be that now's not the right time to talk to this particular teacher. And then I would say, well, when is a good time? Is tomorrow, next week, after school, before school? When would be a good time? And then give them a home field advantage. Listen, I'll just stop by your classroom at the time that you would like to speak.
It's Paula again. Stan wanted me to ask you this. So how relevant is this principal's problem of practice to you? Practical solutions? Click the link for the feedback loop in the podcast description. Or you can click through our website, www.restorative.ca. Back to you, Stan.
Here are two things to try this afternoon or tomorrow. If you want to help a teacher stay and prevent teachers from leaving or staff turnover, first, identify your starfish. Who's the one teacher who you know is struggling? Secondly, be curious and ask open-ended questions about how things are going and what's happening. And be sure to take the full 7.5 minutes for your lunch, eh?